Have you ever stopped to think about what the news from just one single day can tell us about, well, the entire world? We're about to do just that. We're taking a global snapshot of one day, February 27th, 2026.
It's a pretty interesting question, right? Can you really get the full picture from just 24 hours of headlines? Well, you might be surprised. As we're going to see, a single day can act like a lens, revealing all the deep-seated trends, the simmering conflicts, and the powerful forces that are shaping our collective future.
And on this particular day, the picture that emerges is tense, to say the least. The headlines paint a portrait of a planet stretched incredibly thin, pulled in a dozen different directions at once. You can almost feel the fault lines running through everything, from actual battlefields to corporate boardrooms.
So, where do we even begin? Let's start with the most obvious and immediate stuff, the shooting wars and the high-stakes geopolitical standoffs that were really dominating the news cycle. I mean, it doesn't get much more blunt than this. This phrase, open war, isn't from a journalist. It's the official term used by Pakistan's defense ministry. It marks a really dramatic escalation in the long-running conflict with the Taliban government over in Afghanistan.
And this tension was, absolutely everywhere. You've got that declaration of open war in South Asia. At the same time, in the Middle East, nuclear talks between the US and Iran have totally collapsed. And the US has a massive military presence there, keeping all its options open. And then, over in Eastern Europe, the war in Ukraine is grinding into its fifth year, even as a new set of peace talks are being put on the calendar.
The scale of the Ukraine conflict is just staggering, and not just what's happening on the ground. On this one day, the IMF greenlit a new $8.1 billion loan for the country. And this really highlights something crucial. This is an economic war, too. Total international support for Ukraine has now blown past $136 billion. But, of course, the battlefields of 2026 aren't just fought with tanks and drones. On this very same day, other conflicts were raging in completely new arenas, in lines of code, on the stock market, and the consequences there were just as real. And this brings us to one of the fundamental arguments of our time. On one side, you have the AI company Anthropic drawing a line in the sand, publicly refusing to let its tech be weaponized. And on the other side, you've got the Pentagon basically saying, not so fast. We need the best AI to defend the country. It's a huge, high-stakes clash over the ethics of technology. And if you think this is all just some abstract philosophical debate, it's not. On the exact same day, we see the real-world human cost. A major tech company announced it's laying off thousands of employees, specifically to replace them with AI. It just throws these massive questions about the future of work right in our faces. And here, right here, is where you can see all the dots connect. Remember that US-Iran standoff we just talked about? Well, this is how it hits your wallet. Global oil markets, totally spooked by the threat of war, are adding what they call a $10 fear premium to every single barrel of oil. That is a direct tax on the entire global economy, and it's driven purely by geopolitical tension. So with all this conflict and disruption, it's really no surprise that the global chessboard is getting rearranged. Countries are rethinking old friendships, forging new partnerships, and public opinion is shifting under our feet. You can see this fluidity perfectly in two headlines. You've got India and Israel getting closer, making their relationship an official partnership on critical tech. At the exact same time, Canada's Prime Minister is flying to India for the specific purpose of patching up a strained relationship. It just shows you how quickly these things can change. And it's not just governments, it's what people think too. This Gallup poll is honestly historic. For the first time ever, American sympathies in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict are at a dead heat, 50-50. This massive shift, especially among Democrats, signals a major turning point in how Americans view one of the world's longest-running conflicts. So, beyond how countries deal with each other, February 27th also pulled back the curtain on some serious internal pressures. We're seeing nations and powerful groups grappling with scandals, security threats, and crises right at home. I mean, case in point, the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. The fallout just continues to send shockwaves through the global elite. On this day alone, you had both Bill and Hillary Clinton giving depositions. And then, a huge piece of news, the CEO of the World Economic Forum, Burge Brunde, resigned because of his past connections to Epstein. It proves this story is far from over. We also saw a bunch of other internal pressures just bubbling up. In North America, the US, Canada, and Mexico are getting ready for the FIFA World Cup, and they're pouring millions into security to stop a very modern threat, attacks from weaponized drones. Meanwhile, a completely different kind of tragedy was unfolding in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Authorities there made an absolutely horrifying discovery: two mass graves in an area that rebels had just left. It's just a grim, grim reminder of the brutal internal conflict going on there.
And then, closer to the US, a different kind of security alert. Cuban officials actually reached out to the US to warn them about an alleged terrorist plot involving a boat that had left from American soil. It's just another reminder of all the complex threats that are simmering right below the surface. So, what does this all add up to? If you step back and look at all the news from this one day, a really clear pattern emerges. The military standoff in the Persian Gulf is directly connected to the price you pay at the pump. An ethical debate in an AI lab in California ends up costing thousands of people their jobs. It's all connected. And that leaves us with one final and I think pretty crucial question. This one day showed us a world stretched to its limits, where every problem seems to be tangled up with another one. In a world that's defined by these connected crises, where do we even begin to look for any kind of lasting stability?